Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, I'm no kwa, Osinachi. One man, Osinachi, I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, mama, Osinachi. Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, I'm no kwa, Osinachi. One man, Osinachi, I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, mama, Osinachi.
wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Àwọn ọmọdé wọ̀nyí kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa. Wọ́n kéré sí nọ́mbà wa.
Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast. No be your show, no be that. I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, I'm no kwa, Osinachi. One man, Osinachi, I'm watching. Hey, Osinachi, mama, Osinachi. Not because I suffer fast, not because I pray and fast.
I need a cable, an iPhone cable here. So we welcome you all to this panel, and the panel is on Nigerian history, colonial and post-colonial, part 1. So this is room 11A, and you are not supposed to be here or you thought you had another program, you can please look into the program again and you're so sure of where you are. Today we have the chair here seated. His name is Babatunde Olambi Oshiane. All right, thank you, sir. I'm not necessarily the first time here, so I'm going to feel. I'm actually the ruling now. It's the ruling now. It must be your. I like it. You must be your. Yeah. So we have here Muhammad Abdul Kabir. He's a co-presenter with Farouk Borges, but Borges is still on his way. But while we are waiting for Borges, if there is time for the presentation, I think Mohammed can take over. Maybe the time that Borges will join us. Also, we have in our list Mr. Rashid Alao Hassan, who is here present, and we have one of our panelists online, who is Odu John from Nigerian University. Also, we are waiting for Muritala Mustafa. Should you are here, I don't know, is Muritala Mustafa here? So we are still waiting for him. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll be handing over the program to you. Thank you. On behalf of the organizers of this podcast, welcome all of us to the first session for this group. We are supposed to have 4 presentations. One on Gari processing among the Jebu in historical perspective, to be delivered by Dr. Farouk Boge and Mohammed Abdul Kabir. Then the Nigerian Civil War, abandoned property, and the Igbo in Zaria, 1970 to 1983, by Sunday Aluko. Is Mr. Sunday Aluko here? Maybe he will join us either physically or online. Then
I'm online.
You are online. Thank you. Then we have another article titled German Commerce in World War I Nigeria, a reappraisal by Mr. Rashid Alao Azan. You are welcome. And the last one is from the Lagos Youth Movement to the Nigerian Youth Movement, the role of Duse Mohammed Ali by Murtala Mustafa. Is it online or you are joining us physically? It's online. It's online. Okay. I think we have the 4 presenters. They are to spend 12 minutes of their presentations. We will take all presentations. That is the tradition, that all papers will be presented. While the presentations are being made, we can note our comments, we can note our questions, so that at the end of the presentations, we'll now ask questions or general observations or comments about it. We are going to find some of the articles interesting, because for instance, I never thought we'll have abandoned property in Kano. Yes, so it's a new insight to the issue of abandoned property in Nigerian history. Yes, I thought that I know that we have the issue in Lagos, we have it in Port Harcourt. I never knew that we have such a problem in Kano. So it's a new insight to our understanding of the issues involving abandoned property as a result of the Civil War. Then the Lagos Youth Movement or the Nigerian Youth Movement is also a new insight, because this name sounds strange. This name sounds strange in the history of Nigerian youth movements. So it's also a new insight that we are gaining into some of the things that happened in the colonial era. We have been told certain stories that this type of conference will help us debunk and extend our frontier of knowledge on them. So we are going to find this session very stimulating, and we are going to gain a lot from it. So I want to hand over to the first person, if he's ready, Mr. Mohammed Abdul Kabir. You are the first person to take the shot. Are you ready? You can just the next person.
Hello,
Okay.
sir. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sorry for joining late, sir. This is Murtala Mustafa, sir.
Yes, you are welcome.
Sir?
I said you are welcome. You are welcome.
Okay, sir. Yes. Yes, thank you very much, sir. I just want to seek an apology. I mean, to pass an apology and to seek for something, sir. Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir. Right now, I am in Mecca. I'm in Medina, on my way to
Okay, I
Mecca.
can say your dress. I was wondering that is there code in Kano?
Okay, there is no code at all, sir. Yes, because of the importance of the conference, I had to cut off the trip, and then just to join this conversation. I mean, this scholarly discourse. So I am appealing that you should bear with me.
Okay, you want to
Yes,
take
and
first?
yes, if there is possibility for me to take first, because I'm not supposed to even engage in this, but because of the importance of this, I prefer to take the sacrifice because of the importance of this, sir.
Yes, the panel, do we allow him to take the first shot? Mr. Abdulkabir, please let us allow him. Mr. Mutala Mustafa.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you, sir. I can hear you clearly.
You have the floor. We are listening to you.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much, everybody. As he pointed out, my name is Murtala Mustafa from Yusuf Maitama University. Sorry, sir, how many minutes?
12 minutes, 12 minutes.
Okay, 12 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, okay, no, thank you.
Okay,
sir.
Minutes starts counting from now.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So, the title of the paper is on transformation of from the transformation of LYM, Lagos Youth Movement, to Nigerian Youth Movement, the contributions of Duse Mohammed Ali. Now, the paper argues that one of the major contributions of this individual, Duse Mohammed Ali, in the Nigerian politics is the fact that he was one of the leading figures that led to that influenced the Lagos youth element to transform Lagos youth movement from this association Lagos youth movement to political party, to Nigerian youth movement, in order to avoid parochialism and divisive politics in Lagos. And that is why in one of the arguments argued by Coleman in his book, where he mentioned two major Pan-Africanists, Edward Blyden and John Jack Penn. He said these two individuals were the leading icon, the founders of modern nationalism in Nigeria. But it is the argument of this paper to also include Duse Mohammed Ali because of the important contributions he made, particularly on Nigerian politics, especially when he started in Lagos. As we all know, that this individual, Duse Mohammed Ali, was initially initially he was Egyptian man who lost everything due to the conquest of Egypt, and eventually he moved to United Kingdom, UK. In UK, he engaged in scholarly things like that, and eventually he started journalism in Lagos, where he edited African Times and Orient Review, and that opened his doors to diaspora, African American politics, especially Pan-Africanism. In 1912, from 1919, immediately after First World War, Duse Mohammed Ali was into this Pan-Africanist movement, and he did a lot. And that was why from there, he moved to United States of America. In the United States of America, he engaged with these African Americans, and he did so much, particularly when he employed some of the leading Pan-Africanists in the America, especially Marcus Garvey, where he worked under him. And from America, he was into so many parts of the world, in Asia, where he was in this Bandung conference in Asia, particularly among the Indians and Pakistanis and other Asians. And finally, he came back to Nigeria and he settled in Lagos. But the choice of Lagos was very strategic because of the importance of Lagos, where Lagos accommodated a number of immigrant communities. And that was why he opted for Lagos. From 1920, when he settled in Lagos, up to 1945, when he died, Duse Muhammad Ali lived in Lagos, although temporarily he left Lagos, I think, in 1921. But by the time he came back to Lagos in 1930, he was in Lagos. There were no records that Duse Muhammad Ali left Lagos throughout 1930 up to 1945 when he died. Now, one of the major contributions he made in relation to this was the fact that he used this journalistic experience he had in the diaspora, and started this newspaper, news magazine. He called it News Magazine for West Africa, The Comet. The title of the paper was The Comet. Now, in the methodology, in writing this paper, it has been observed that Duse Muhammad Ali, the paper used primarily, one of the primary sources it relied on were these records from the archives, National Archives, Ibadan, where records of this paper were retrieved and important information were utilized and critically analyzed. Now, the argument of this paper, the paper is broken into three parts, or I could say into themes. One, it looks at the background to the formation of NYM, and then it also looks at the transformation of Lagos Youth Movement, how Lagos Youth Movement was transformed from this to LYM. And it also looks at the contributions or achievements of LYM, and then finally the conclusion. Now, let's start with the background of LYM. As we all know that during colonial periods, there were certain restrictions, political restrictions in many parts of the country, but in Lagos, there were certain leverages that they enjoyed, and that was why party politics and even associations began in Lagos. Now, according to some of the sources, especially argued by one writer, Al-Kasum Abba, he pointed out that associations, youth associations generally started in Lagos somewhere around 1923 when Union of Young Nigerians were established. But prior to this, there were certain associations, as argued by Coleman in his book, where the Ijebu Association, and certain, tribal associations that were established in Lagos right from 1910s, and this marked the beginning of these non-political associations in Lagos. And that was why when the Lagos youth elements, started this questioning the dominance of the political icons in Lagos, particularly the dominance of NNDP when it was established in 1923 by Macaulay, Herbert Macaulay, and at the same time, this man, Egerton Shegule, who emerged as its president. The Lagos youth element felt dominated, and they tried all they could to break the dominance of Macaulay, because Macaulay was a doyen of nationalism in Lagos. He received a number of allegiance and loyalty from almost all classes in Lagos. We are talking about classes from the Semo ruling house, the class from the market women, the class from the youth and other people within Lagos cycle. But one of in their efforts to break this dominance, the Lagos youth, they said that they were tired of this dominance, and they took advantage of the predicament of the Yaba College. We all know the situation in Yaba College, where in one of the documents, one of the issues of by this paper, The Comet, Duse Muhammad Ali had pointed out that the youth in Lagos Yaba College, they were tired of these colonial restrictions where they prevented the emergence of any, the establishment of any university, British university or affiliation in Lagos. And by then, especially by 1920s, early 1920s, Yaba College had no any affiliation to any British university, and it was the highest institution of learning we had in Nigeria. And the only thing they offered was diploma program, and these diploma programs was termed as inferior because it lacked so many opportunities. When you back that diploma, there were no opportunities for you, nothing for you. And that was why these youth in Yaba College, they started agitating for establishing a higher political, higher educational institution or qualification in Nigeria. And this was born out of these grievances and agitations that the youth element, they had to stand up and, agitate for the balance in terms of education. And that was why, under the leadership of Dr. J.C. Vaughan, Ernest Cole, H.O. Davis, Samuel Akinsanyan, they came up with this idea of establishing the Lagos Youth Movement in 1934, and with the sole objective of, one, addressing the problems of this Yaba College by creating a university for the British colonies, particularly Lagos, and at the same time, breaking the dominance of the old Cargon in Lagos, especially the dominance of Macaulay and the rest. Now, in one of the contributions that was made by this Duse Muhammad Ali, he used this, to agitate for the establishment of a university by relying on an Elliot Commission. There was a colonial officer called Elliot who was given the mandate to look into the situation and of establishing higher college in Nigeria. And then Duse Muhammad Ali delved more in issuing certain critique in his journal, in his magazine, and he issued almost 7 to 8 issues trying to justify that Nigeria has come of age. Had come of age. There was a necessity for establishing higher college in Nigeria. Now, within the span of 2 years, when this Lagos Youth Movement was established, it attracted a lot of youth beyond Lagos. That was why Duse Muhammad Ali, in one of the issues of this comet, it sensed a danger. In one of its issues on 9th November 1935, he sensed the danger of parochialism. Sir?
Mr. Mohammed, you have 3 more minutes.
Okay, sir. He sensed the danger of parochialism, and when he sensed the danger of parochialism, he advocated and influenced the youth movement of Lagos to change this name from Lagos Youth Movement to Nigeria Youth Movement. In fact, there is no time for me to, and this is one of the major reasons that the primary aim here is to achieve a national character, because by restricting it to Lagos, it was just like they were confining it to the island of Lagos, and this restricted it to having a national outlook and national character. In fact, in another volume, another issue on 14th November 1945, he also gave it will be a great error to view the social situation solely from Lagos standpoint. And this also suggested the implication of restricting any social development that will galvanize everybody in Nigeria, all the social classes in Nigeria, to the island of Lagos. And then he also, at the same time, in one of the issues on 18th January 1936, let me quote this. It says, the original intention was by no means national, but as stated, a limited class movement for which it is intended to obtain public support. A change of name does not necessarily mean a change in objective. By this, Duse Muhammad Ali was strongly suggesting that, despite the fact that they changed their name from Lagos Youth Movement, does not mean they changed the objective of the establishment of the association. It will still remain a youth-dominated association, but with particular emphasis to national, thereby enlarging the scope of this. And that was why at the beginning of this movement, it had little branches. It was the first political party to open branches beyond the island of Lagos or beyond southern Nigeria, because this NYM had some branches in some key towns like Jos, like Kano, like Zaria, and few other places. Another contributions of this man was that in the angle of availing his paper, The Comet, to become the mouthpiece, unofficial mouthpiece of these two major associations. One, the LYM, and at the same time, NYM. Although it wasn't the only one when it was under NYM. Ecoli's daily service was also...
Hello. Your time is fast spent. I want to thank you for...
Okay, okay, sir. Yes.
You've exceeded the time given to you. But I was like the new insight you are giving me about the role of a foreigner, so to speak, an Egyptian for that matter, in the nationalist struggle, especially not only in Lagos, but throughout Nigeria. So I want to thank you for that new insight that you have given us. And let's keep our observations and comments to the question and answer session. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Now the next presenter is Mr. Mohammed Abdul Kabir, who will be presenting on behalf of himself and Dr. Farouk Boge. And the title of their paper is Gari Processing Among the Ijebu in Historical Perspective. Please, let's try to keep to 12 minutes time frame. Thank you.
Good morning, member of panel, audience, and my co-presenter who is not here present, but is joining me online. So I'm Mohammed Abdul Mohammed. I'm co-authoring this work with both the PhD, both from the Department of History and International Studies, because the title of our article is Gari Processing Among the Ijebu in Historical Perspective. So undoubtedly, Gari is not a strange phenomenon to everyone who was here singing. So it is now a widespread food, taken not only in Nigeria, not even in Africa, but in Europe, America, and other parts of the world. So this ubiquitousness of Gari is not something limited to Nigeria and not Africa, but the world at large. So, but among these Gari that we have different manufacturers of Gari. We have Ijebu manufacturers. We have the Igbos who manufacture Gari, even the Hausas, even though it is very limited in that part of Nigeria. So, but our own focus is on the Ijebu as producers of Gari. So, and this is because the Ijebu Gari is distinctive. The Ijebu Gari is distinctive among the producers of Gari in Nigeria. And that's what we'll be speaking on today. So this article examines the dynamics and of the traditional scaling instruments and processing methods. So that is what we'll be focusing on majorly. And we use qualitative research methodology to carry out our research and conclude that even though there are many Gari producers in the world, let us put it that way, Gari Ijebu is distinctive among every other producers of Gari. So, but we cannot start except that we have understood who are the Ijebu themselves. So there are many traditions as to the origin of the Ijebu. So, but there seems to be three plausible traditions. So we have the migration theory, the migration tradition. We have the Ajebo and we have the Ajebo tradition. We have those who said the Ijebu migrated from Ife. So for the migration theory, So this tradition opined that the Ijebu people migrated from Ethiopia. So, and they have a lot of evidence to back that they used to back up this assertion. So one of the evidence is that we have the tribal marks, the facial tribal marks that we have on the Ijebu citizen spaces. So if you go to in Ethiopia, they also have the same marks on their face. And in terms of the flutes that they use in the coronation of a new king, the Ijebu also have the same thing. So these are some of the evidences they use to back their assertion that the Ijebu actually migrated from Sudan, from East Ethiopia. So the Ajebo tradition states that some of the earliest, kings of Ijebu, the earliest people of Ijebu were there were three, Ajebo and Ajana, among others. So these three individuals were said to have gotten to a dense farmland where they were confused and they needed to sort the Ifa oracle on which way to proceed to. So which place to establish themselves. So, and the Ifa oracle, gave them direction of that the Ajebo should proceed to settle at a place now known as it skipped my mind. So, and the Ajana now establishes itself in a place now known as Ita Ajana, and that is where the name Ijebode is coined. Ijebode is coined from two words, the Olode and the Ajebo. Yeah, Olode is the second person. So, and the Ajebo. So, Ijebu Ode from the two words. So that is that about the tradition. Not to waste our time, we have to proceed to the other thing on in our point here. So, and this is the economy of the Ijebu. Of course, agriculture dominates the West African economy. So, and the Ijebu's case is not otherwise. They also practice agriculture. They are craftsmen and women. So, but in terms of agriculture, they still have some particular crops that dominate their economy, and that is cassava. Cassava stands out among other crops that the Ijebu engage in. So cassava, to many Nigerians, in fact, people are obfuscate about the fact that cassava is not even native to Nigeria, not even Africa. So, but to our historian scholars, we know that cassava migrated. Cassava was one of the crops that we contacted during our popular contacts, the slave trade contact with the Portuguese in the 16th century. So cassava came into the African continent, and because of the fertility of our land and the nature of cassava itself, that it's able to adapt to many different climates, despite maybe short rainfall or sun. So cassava can thrive in any place, That is why it is planted. In fact, it is planted throughout the year, even though there are some months that are designated to the plantation of cassava, because they believe that it is a fact that cassava thrives better in these months. So that is that about that. And looking at cassava as a staple and a cash crop in Nigeria, it is also a known fact that one of the our goods that we export to other countries is cassava, even though our government have failed to realize the potential that the exploitation of cassava would bring, despite the fact that we are the dominant, the best cassava producer in the world. In fact, Nigeria is the how do I put it? Nigeria is the top in terms of the countries that produce cassava. But in terms of exportation, we are not even in between 1 to 10. So Thailand, USA, China, among others, are countries that has succeeded and that are ranked among the top cassava exporters. So, but in terms of production, Nigeria has sway, and within Nigeria, the Ijebu are particular. So, this cassava, we then examine that what has made this cassava to be the dominant, the dominant crop among the Ijebu. Well, what are the factors that enable its dominance? So this brings us to the first point here, that availability of fertile land. Of course, we have fertile land all over Nigeria, and Ijebu being concentrated in the southwestern region of Nigeria among the Yoruba. So of course, you know how the land is there. So the fertile land of the Ijebu people is one of the factors that speaks to the dominance of cassava among the Ijebu. We also have the adaptability of cassava, which I mentioned earlier, that cassava can thrive in any climate, even though some climates are preferable and are good for cassava plantation more than another, but cassava can thrive in any climate. We also have the technicality factor. Cassava is a crop that is less technical. It is something that even strangers who have come to the Ijebu land, also partake in the production of cassava. Having spent maybe just 2-3 years in the land, they can start the cultivation because it is less technical. It is less technical. It is unlike rubber plantation. It is unlike palm oil plantation. So that is that. We also have the accommodative / mixed farming factor. So cassava is a crop that in a land where cassava is planted, you can also grow other crops in that same land. So it encourages mixed farming. It is not such crop that once it is planted, you cannot have any other crops on that same land. In fact, some of the crops that the Ijebu plant alongside cassava is maize. They plant maize alongside cassava and some other cereals crops. They thrive on the same lines. So cassava does not disturb the plantation of some other crops, other cereals crops. So we have another factor, which is not capital intensive. Cassava is not plantation of cassava does not require huge capital, unlike rubber plantation. Of course, we know palm oil plantation, it requires millions. Rubber, it requires millions. Timber, all those crops. But cassava, even with just 50,000 naira as present in the Ijebu town, you can be a cassava producer. So you can plant cassava, especially when you already have your land obtained. So what you do is to clear the land, and which I'm going to talk about in my subsequent slide. So we also have the means of inheritance as some of the factors. The transferability as well is a very prominent factor that I speak to cassava's thrive in Ijebu land. I said the transferability. Cassava is transformable. There are many products that are derived from cassava, some of which gari is the popular one. We have fufu, which the Igbo called aku. We have abasha, also made by the Igbo, a food that is common to the Igbo people. We have pupuru, we have lafu, otherwise called flour. So there are many. In fact, cassava is used in the production of some snacks. We use the flour made from cassava to produce some snacks. So, and this cassava has many importance to the body, unlike contrary to what people believe of cassava, because people believe that when you take gari, it causes cancer. It causes, as a matter of fact, medicalists have claimed that cassava prevents cancer if it is not taken in a large quantity. If you don't take cassava gari too much, gari, which is a product of cassava, if you don't take it too much, it prevents cancer, and it also regulates blood in the body. It enables easy digestion of food. So these are some of the importance of gari, and it also clears the eye. If it is not taken too much, if it's taken too much, the contrary is the case. If you take too much of gari, you have, in fact, they say it can blind the eye. So, but if you are taking it, in a little manner, so it enhance it enhance visibility of the eyes. So these are some of the importance of gari, and more especially, we have vitality. Vitality as one of the factors that make cassava thrives. Vitality in the sense that it is a last-longing food. When you take gari, it gives you energy, and it lasts long in the stomach. And you know that the Ijebu people, of course, are very strong people, and they engage in hard labor. So they believe that when they take such food as gari, before they engage in their farming or go to their various economic positions, they will be able to, like, at least it will last longer in their stomach, in their belly, than taking snacks or other foods like indomie, rice, and in fact, rice as a food that is common in Nigeria now. Before, in the history of the Ijebu people, rice is a festive food. It's a festive food. As a matter of fact, some of the interviews we conducted with our people, an old woman once said that before, in some, maybe probably in the late 20th century, cassava, they take cassava in maybe doing Ileya festives or the Ramadan Salah festive. So, and they are happy. Immediately the what is it called? Ileya is coming, approaching like this, or Ramadan Salah. They are happy that at least they are going to take rice this time, because gari has always been the food they take. So now going to the scaling, the processing, we are peeling as one of the
Yes, 2 more minutes.
Okay, we are peeling. Peeling is the first process. Having conveying the gari from farm to your home. So the first thing you do is they'll peel the gari, and if it is in large quantity, it requires labor. It requires that you acquire labors, and this labor can come in form of maybe students. For example, the civil servants, those who are civil servants or those who are apprentices. So they often take their apprentices to the farm to work on the farmland for them. Those who are nice among them pay these students. Those who are not nice, they see it as a norm. That is meant that students are meant to work for their lecturers, their teachers, and like that. So we have grinding. So after the peeling of cassava, the next thing is the grind using the machine. Before, in the earlier times, what they use is the can, all this Milo or Bonfita can. They slice it and they try to make it in form of a filter. So maybe they use they apply nail on those can, just to give it oil and make it something that can sift something. So they use this thing to grind the cassava, to grate it. We are fermenting as the next. After the peeling, they ferment it. This fermentation can come in form of using some rod, and this is a contemporary one in the Ijebu. Although there are now technological tools that are used, but Ijebu are still lacking. Some part of the Ijebu are still lacking, like Ogumota side. Although in a place like Ijebu Igbo, they now have a new machine that they use in frying gari, which is the last process after the fermentation, which often takes maybe 2 days, 3 days. So the next process is the frying. So the last point here is the weighing and the scaling. So weighing and scaling of gari for sale. So it's often dictated, especially in the earlier times, is dictated by the market. Okay. So and the market then, the popular market was Lagos. Although there are some other local markets within the Ijebu lands. So, but they prefer, because Lagos is, that's coming in form of an interstate level. So they earn more profit selling their gari in Lagos than selling it among themselves. Because one of the factors is that selling it among themselves means that, it's a common food. It's common. Everybody, in fact, there is virtually no family that does not engage in cassava production in Ijebu land. So selling it among themselves is like, it does not really have much value, and there's not much benefit in it. They prefer to sell it. So what Lagos dictates then was what they use in their scaling tools. So they often ask such questions like, Kile Konso, meaning that what is Lagos saying now? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Let's give our comments and observations in that section. The next person, or the next paper, will be presented by Mr. Sunday Aluku. Is he online with us, or is he here physically?
I'm online.
You are online?
Yes, sir. I'm online.
There are two?
I am online.
Okay. Okay. And Odo John. Okay. It's a paper of two people. So Odo John will be presenting for the two people. And the title of the paper is The Nigerian Civil War, abandoned property, and the Igbo in Zaria, 1970 to 1983. Mr. Odo John, you have the floor. 12 minutes, please. I hope you keep within the 12 minutes.
Yes, I'll try.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes. Also, the audience. My name is Odo Nathaniel John. I'm a PhD student of Nigerian Defense Academy. So I'll be presenting a part of my work. It's an ongoing research. So I hope to get feedbacks and also contribution to this work. The title of my paper is Nigerian Civil War, Abandoned Property, and the Igbo in Zaria. Basically, Zaria is very strategic in the history of Hausa land, being that it was an ancient city and also it was located on the trans-Saharan trade route. So, which meant that it was a melting point for different people, that is both traders, artisans, converged there to carry on their trade. And also the history of the city is a rich one because it accommodated migrants within the city walls of Zaria. Now, basically, as far as migration is concerned in Zaria, we have no recorded history of their migration into Zaria before the colonial era. But that is not to say that there were no contacts, because the British colonialists tried to make us try to create a myth that there were no interactions between the different ethnic groups in Nigerian area before their coming, as Atta has illustrated in his work. Now, basically, there were interactions because we had the Yoruba traders, the Nupe traders, who were carrying their wares to the Zaria area at this period. And also, they serve as an intermediary between the Igbo traders and also the Hausa traders. So there was a form of interaction along the banks of River Niger. And also in the 20th century, there was a transformation in this interaction or in this contact, because it was the period of the British colonialism. So the British colonialists, they established institutions. And also they established infrastructure. And these infrastructure help to facilitate the movement of Igbo from their region to the northern part of Nigeria, that is to Zaria. For example, we had the construction of a railway line linking the south to the north. And this railway line actually passed through Zaria. So in search of greener pasture, some of them migrated to Zaria to take up appointments and jobs. And then others who were also involved in the informal sector, that is the established businesses in which they were engaging. So, and also within this period too, with the Igbo migrants in Zaria, the British came up with a policy, that is a settlement plan, in which they established Sabongari. And then this Sabongari was for the southern migrants. And this was contrary to the way migration pattern was before, because I said that migrants were settled within the walled city of Zaria. But in this case, a part of Zaria was dedicated for southern migrants, which was called Sabongari. And as Mahmoud Tukur and Mandani will make us understand, this issue of creating separate settlement actually deepened the division between the different people in Nigeria, because it did not help in forming cohesion among the Nigerian people. So there was also the formation of the Igbo Union. Now, the Igbo Union in Zaria was very instrumental in accepting new migrants that were coming into Zaria, and also helping them to get jobs, and also helping them to settle down in Zaria. And this continued even up to Nigeria independence and First Republic. Now, we all know that the First Republic was riddled by crisis and conflict. And this conflict culminated in the crisis of 1966. Because if I may not go into the details of this crisis, but I will just give a background for us to understand where I'm going to. Now, the genesis of this crisis was the first military coup of January 15th, 1966. And then in this coup, as we are aware, it was sectional in nature, because looking at the coup plotters and also the victims of this coup. Okay, so basically, most of the northern leaders and also military officers were victims of this coup. And then this led to reprisal, because with the coming to power of Aderonsi, he promulgated 2 decrees, that is Decree 33 and 34. And these decrees actually did not go down well with the northern people, of which they called for secession. So that led to what we call the Araba crisis, because it was a unification decree. And in this Araba crisis, that is to divide, okay, the Igbo became the targets. They were targeted. So in the interviews in which I conducted in Zaria, I was made to understand that Igbo population was concentrated in Sabongari, though we also have them in Samaru, we have them in Tudunwada, and most of the attacks that were carried on against the Igbos, they were perpetrated by outsiders, okay, who are not conversant with the Igbo people, because if you look at the crisis, it wasn't as if it was their neighbors that actually perpetrated this violence against them, but rather they were outsiders, because we have recorded history of some of the neighbors of Igbos hiding them in their houses, that is to prevent them from being attacked. So 1966 was a period of upheaval in which many Igbo people had to leave Zaria. So there was the first migration or the movement of Igbo people to Zaria, that is to secure their lives. Then one of the issues that became very important here is the issue of abandoned properties, because they could not go with their property, because they had established businesses, they had established, they had houses and also landed property. There's no way they could go with them. So they left them behind. And we said that Sabongari was deserted. And at a point, this abandoned property constituted a health risk. And then there was this argument of what should be done with these properties. So government of Northern Region had to establish an abandoned property committee, that is look after these properties and then take care of them. So these properties were given to a caretaker committee, to caretakers. So people who were responsible took over some of this property, and then they repaired the houses and then put them up for rent. And then they managed them until the return of the owners to claim this property. Now, towards 1970, that is towards the tail end of Nigerian Civil War, some of the Igbo migrants began to come back to Zaria. And also, we know when the war also ended, Yakubu Gowon brought up the issue of the 3 R's, that is reconciliation, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. And part of his plan of reconciliation or the integration was to encourage the Igbo people to come back to the north and settle. And then one of the should I say baits that was used was the abandoned property, because they were promised that once they come back to Zaria, they will lay hold of this property, they can claim their property. So this encouraged them to come back and claim their property. So, and also in the interviews I conducted with some of the Igbo people in Zaria, though these are the second generation of the migrants, they attested that the parents were able to reclaim their landed property and their houses, except for movable items that they did not meet, but they were able to reclaim some of these properties. And then this is in contradiction to what happened in the southern part of Nigeria, that is Rivers State and also Rivers and also Calabar, in which these properties were tagged abandoned and then they were confiscated. So we could see that in Zaria, there was an effective management of these properties left behind by the Igbo. And also from the testimonies we got on the field, it attested to the fact that these properties were reclaimed. Only a few cases where there were hiccups, but on a large percentage, they were able to reclaim their property. And also, after the Civil War too, we also had new migrants who were leaving the eastern part of Nigeria to come to Zaria. And the reason for this also is that there was openings. There were openings for them for jobs, especially job in the telegraph, in the railway station, and all that. So this actually encourage migration to the region. So in conclusion, yes.
Please, 2 more minutes.
Let me conclude. So in conclusion, what the paper is trying to put across is that in terms of the management of the properties left behind in the north, and that is Zaria, it was effectively managed in Zaria in comparison to what happened in other parts of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, we have listened to him. Be waiting for observations and questions from other members of the panel. And let's go to the last paper, which to be presented by Mr. Rashid Alao Azan. And the title of the paper is German Commerce in World War I, Nigeria, a reappraisal. Please, Mr. Azan, you have the floor. 12 minutes.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Rashid Azan. I'm presenting on German Commerce in World War I, Nigeria, a reappraisal. So I will then quickly run through the schedule. I'm going to talk about the introduction. So I'll give a brief background. So, and I will talk about colonial policies. So I'll talk about colonial policies and the German and the capture of German commerce in Nigeria. So I'll talk about treatment of German businesses in Nigeria. And I'm also going to, under this, I'm going to talk about recovery and sales of stock. I'm going to talk about recovery and sales of German permanent assets. So I'm also going to discuss payment of claims to German creditors. And I'm also going to discuss investment of proceeds on war security. And I'll give a conclusion. So I begin. So German had been in Nigeria for over half a century prior to the outbreak of the First World War. So they were basically into commerce. So they had dominated the exportation sector, and then they were doing well in the import sector. So they were supplying staples like household utensils and textile materials, building materials, and drinks of all kinds. So that's what they were importing. Then they were exporting palm produce, like palm oil and palm kernel for processing to Europe. So, but by 1914, the World War broke out, and then there was a kind of a new chapter in the history of German presence in Nigeria, because it affected the German in Nigeria. So as a result, Germans were stopped from trading. Then though previous studies have looked at Anglo-German trade rivalry by Olorunfemi Akin, Olayemi Akinwumi, the colonial contest for the Nigerian region, a history of German participation, and then Peter John Yearwood, the death of Libra England. But the focus of this study is just to investigate what actually happened to the businesses left behind by the German people after they were repatriated back home. So I moved to what I call the colonial policies and the capture of German commerce. So immediately the war broke out, and because Britain and Germany, they were at each other's loggerheads, they were contending against each other. So Britain began to introduce certain policies aimed at checkmating the onslaught of the enemy, which was German. So it came up with the Alien Restriction Ordinance, which actually placed the restriction on the enemies, that is the German, both at the metropole and at the colony. So immediately after that, then there was this trading with the enemies ordinance. Then with this, Germans were completely banned from trading. So after this, there was a kind of agitation in Nigeria that Germans should be allowed to continue trade because they actually dominated both the export and then the import. So the colony couldn't probably survive without kind of supply from by the Germans. So it became so difficult for the colony because they relied so much on them, including the colonial government, because revenues of the colonial government and the Germans payment of custom duties and then taxes accounted for one of larger percentage of the revenues of the colonial government. So there was this agitation from the German from the British manufacturers in Europe, in England, who were actually supplying goods to the German that they were bringing to Nigeria, that Germans should be allowed to resume to trade. And then the colonial government, Lord Frederick Lugard, the governor, was also of the view that Germans should be allowed to resume to trade. So there was this September 9 proclamations after these agitations. So the September 9 proclamations allowed Germans to restart trading activities, but under certain conditions. German merchants were forbidden from trading or remitting home money to the home government. They were forbidden to possess arms, ammunition, or explosives. And they were to report on a daily basis to an officer for examination. And they were to be subjected to a curfew from 9 p.m. daily. So after this proclamation, there was again a kind of debate, agitations from the British merchants in Nigeria that why would they allow Germans to resume to trade? Because initially the British merchants in Nigeria had consistently seen Germans as a kind of threat to their commercial interests. So they actually wanted Germans to leave. So they have been pressing for this prior to the outbreak of the war. So they never even wanted the resumption of German trade in the first place. So they were kind of agitating, protesting that Germans shouldn't have been allowed to resume to trade. Then a lot of evidences were gathered against them and the Germans. So they were like Germans in the eastern part, Warri axis, and the southern part have been bragging about that they were actually allowed to resume to trade because they were gaining upper hands at the at the war. So others were like a kind of a resumption to German trade would affect British merchant commercial interests. So in the view of this, the governor of Nigeria constituted a kind of a committee to look into this. And after the report that was submitted after this by this committee, recommended that Germans should be completely banned from trading activities, because it will leave a kind of a wrong intention on the minds of the people that they will be thinking that truly Britain allowed Germany to resume to trade because Britain and Germany was gaining upper hand, and that it was not in it is not in the interest of the colony and of the British merchants. So they had to allow. We recommended that they should stop trading activities.
31 minutes.
So by November 1914, Germans were finally suspended, and then they were taken prisoners of war and then sent back home. So there was the appointment of a receiver who was to coordinate the sale and recovery of German business. So there was this recovery of sales and recovery of stock, whereby their stocks, they went all through the warehouses and then recovered the stocks and then sold. And then there was a recovery of permanent assets like building machines. They were also recovered and then they were sold. And then there was this payment of claims, because Germany had been indebted to people in Nigeria, to British manufacturers, and then to banks. So, for instance, Bank of West Africa, British Bank of West Africa was paid £10,719, while British manufacturers, Igham Limited, was paid £37,000. So there was the investment. There was an investment on proceed on war security. So this the proceeds realized from these sales were actually, the remaining were actually invested on war security. So from 1915 to from 1915, £480,000 was invested in 1915. 1916 to 1917, 737,000 was invested on war security. Then in 1918, £50,000 was also invested on war security. And I give the conclusion that so far this paper has given an account of how the First World War impacted German trade. It has basically explored how wartime policy will later affect a migrant community, which had hitherto contributed immensely toward the development of the colonial economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we have all listened to the four presenters, and the floor is open for comments, for questions. Mr. John, I hope you are still online. Yes, you are still online. What of
yes.
Mohammed, are you online? He's here. Okay. So our comments. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me start with it. Like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, question 1.
Yeah, thank you to the four presenters for sharing your works with us. I have questions. Again, comments for Farouk, and I have questions for both Rashid and then John. So I will be.
Other people have
You're already taking my time, so let me get at it. So, for Farouk, wonderful presentation, but I couldn't help think about this particular point: the excess, the health implication of the excess of Gary. That if you take it in moderation, the health benefit would register. However, if you do the opposite, it's foreign. I'd like you to just reflect. For as far as I'm concerned, the human condition in this country dictates that you are forever oriented towards Gary. So what we're now dealing with is a situation where we have so many cancer patients, in store, because that's the implication. So does your paper, take a note of the fact that the economic condition of this country situates people within the space of taking excess of Gary? So that's the. We can talk. I am just interested in what I can add to your paper, not so much. Yeah.
Your question 2, sir.
My question 2. Mr. Rashid and then John. Because of the similarity in your papers, I am putting this question to you, and one will be specifically for you. So the joint question. I, as a researcher of the Nigerian Civil War, I know that a lot of work has been done in that area. So I'm asking John, and you who focuses on the civil, World War I and the involvement of Germans, and there are tons of work in that area too. Just what relatively unique perspective are you bringing to that to the respective discourses? What is unique? Why does your project matter? What are you seeking to contribute to this? Or are you just reinventing the wheel? So I like to hear that. And finally to you, my other question is, would you use pictures in your project? Because, given what you're talking about, I was expecting to see some pictures, and probably you didn't want to do that. However, I am struggling to think that for a project of this kind, you would not need pictorial evidences also. Discount my views if they do not matter to you. Thank you.
So, Mr. Gary, sorry, President, because my best friend is Gary. I think Gary 8 or 10 times a day. So, when you made mention of terminal disease, I was so curious. Because as the manager of sex, majority, it's not out of poverty. Majority love. But as it is scientifically found that it can cause total blindness or other terminal disease. Second, on the argument of so-called tradition of origin of the Jebus, the argument we had then was majority of the ruling class in Ijebuland, Remo, or the proper Ijebu, let me use that word, migrated from Ile-Ife. I have instances about 2 or 3. The initial people, the ruling class, migrated from a company in Ife, known as Aka Company in Remo quarters. Likewise, the Akari group of Shagamu hail from Obalufon clan within Remo quarters in Ile-Ife. We have Iraye Remo behind Ode Remo when you are coming from Ibadan to behind. They migrated from the ruling class too, from Iraye quarters. To me, it shows that I'm of the view that majority of ruling class migrated from Ife, and so comes down theory. So that's my position for you. To Mr. Odo John. My question is this: who are in control of those building and landed properties of the Hebrews during the Civil War and post-Civil War, especially between 1967 and 1975? And was it the education of the Hebrews?
Sorry.
Okay, my question is this: who controlled the building and landed properties of the Igbos during and after the Civil War, especially before 1975, when General Guan was overthrown by Muritala and Co. And their reintegration to Sharia community, was it easy? And those properties, were they returned to them? Those are my questions.
Can you get the questions, Mr. John?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Note it for yes, madam.
To the presenter on Gari. As important as Ijebu Gari is, I want to know if there are policies in terms of advancing exportation or even the advancement of Ijebu Gari, because I am based in Akwa Ibom, and even though they produce Gari, you still see them craving for Ijebu Gari. So I want to know if there are positions or if there are policies at exporting, or is it just basically a national thing? Then to Mr. Rashid, you were mentioning a lot of German economic activities, even the British activities, economic activities. I want to ask, all these colonial economic activities, what are their benefits to Nigeria as a whole? Or better still, what several perspectives of, if you can just give us few perspective of
Nigerians.
on Nigeria. Thank you.
Number 4. All right, thank you so much, the presenters. Now, my first question goes to Mr. Muhammad, who presented on Gari processing among the Ijebu. Now, I understand the fact that literally every location in Nigeria produces Gari. Now, I now want to know, like, if you could just expatiate further on this, how or what are the processes involved in the making of the Ijebu Gari, why everybody craves for it? That makes it exactly now. I did notice that you did not even include that exactly now. But according to what the third person said, you know, Akwa Ibom and people craving. Also, when I was in Makodi 7 then, I know that we all craved for the Ijebu Gari. So what made it unique to an extent? Now, the other question goes to Mr. Odo John. Now, in your presentation, I just want to understand, as I understood the fact that the Nigerian Civil War, even though several scholars like Okori and Ayaduba, they've actually clamored for the recognition of the Civil War as a genocide, and today it does not really be recognized as a genocide in Nigeria. I just want to understand, or maybe your work actually has something similar to the fact that in clamoring for the recognition of the Nigerian Civil War as a case of a genocide in Nigeria. I don't know if you have something similar to that you can share with us, sir.
Mr. John. Mr. John.
I'm with you.
Can you get that question?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Number 5.
So, Mr. Abdulkadir Gari. So sorry that the question is becoming your current decimal. Because that question is the title is very important, because majority of us that are here, some of us, we are from Ijebu. We were born and brought up in Ijebu. So some of us are here because of the title, Gari. Yeah. We wanted to see new ground that you are trying to break in that research. So at the beginning of your presentation, you made mention of, you said the Gari Ijebu is distinctive. And you have made mention that Igbos and some other community too, group of people, they produce Gari. But what makes Gari Ijebu a distinctive one, a uniqueness? So that is that. So Mr. Udo, in your presentation, you made mention of Igbo million in Zaria. What do you mean by that? What is their function? A million in Zaria.
Sorry, please.
You said Igbo. You said
what?
Igbo's million in Zaria.
No, Igbo union.
Okay, I thought. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you for the. Okay. Thank you for that.
Fine. Okay, so it's okay. Okay, so for the first person, I asked, because you were able to discuss a lot of things, and I said, what is the objective of this study? Now, for the, I think Mr. Udo, no, Lagos, no, Lagos. Yes. So, and I said, what is it? Yes. So I said, what really is the objective of the study? Then for the Gari, Mr. Gari, sorry, Ijebu Gari. Yes, so for Mr. Rashid, I'm sorry. Yes, I said what is your paper really looking at? Are you looking at the economic impacts of Gari, or you're just trying to discuss it generally, like looking at the history of, because your work is not, you're just discussing Gari Jebu. So you're not really looking at if there's any benefits, maybe economic benefits or so. So you should try and do that in the body of your work. So for the other man, Sunday Aluko, I said avoid using, he said he's a PhD student. So for further or future presentation, please avoid using words like subjective statement, like I went, I did, and things like that. Yes, and for the last man, Rashid Alo Azan. So I said, also I asked, what is the goal of your study? And also, no, we are all scholars here, and please avoid words like using please just try and work on it. So thank you.
Thank you. Number 7. Yes.
Okay, for the first presenter who presented on Lagos Youth Movement, from the Lagos Youth Movement to the Nigerian Youth Movement, I was excited when I was listening to your presentation because for the character you were talking about, for the person you were talking about who is the role of Jose Muhammad, I really did not know about him until you just mentioned it today. And I'm glad I just heard about it. But my question now is, the essence of history is to help us understand the present. So what is the essence of your work to the present situation we find ourselves? Now, what am I trying to say? Like I said, the essence of history is to help us understand present issues, asking deeper questions as to why things are the way they are. So what is the essence of your work? You've told us about him, what he did, his contribution, and all that. So what do you want us to use it for? What is that unique thing, just like the first person asked, that you want us to get from this, your presentation? To the second person, I don't want to call you Gary because everybody has been calling you Ijebu Gary. Ijebu Gary, honestly, you minored in the major and majored in the minor. Your work is simply Gary processing. You didn't need to start telling us about the health benefit of Gary, whether whether Nigerians are exporting Gary or not. It's not your business. And that's why questions are now coming up that you need not even answer in the first place. When you say Gary processing, you should stick to telling us the unique ways in which Ijebu Gary is different from Ibilo. That is the crux of your work. But you rigmaroled and you told us about things that you were not even supposed to tell us. That's why questions are coming up. So I also want to join the others to ask, what is that, or what are the unique methods in which Ijebu Gary is processed? What is the crux of your work? And that's what I want to hear about. Then, okay, to the third speaker, Mr. Odo John, just like I asked the first speaker, what is the essence of this history you're telling us about? This is just history you have told us. What is unique? What is new? What are you bringing to the table? Thank you.
Yeah, each person.
My contribution is just from Mr. Mohammed. I just wanted to, it's a suggestion I want to make. Why not say Gary production instead of Gary processing? If you have used Gary production, then you would have intersected yourself to the health benefits, social benefits, and the economic, because I believe that's what you are trying to do. So I believe you have said Gary production in Ijebu land. By then you are not be able to create sections to show the health benefit of Gary, the economic importance, the social and otherwise. So I'm just giving you a suggestion, and it depends on you can take it or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the papers. So I have a question to Mr. Odo about the Mr. John. Because I didn't understand what you were saying, that Sabon Gari were built for immigrants from the south. Because my understanding of Sabon Gari is that they were new cities built in the south for people coming from the north in the south. Because Sabon Gari is actually shrunk as Sabo. Sabo comes from Sabon Gari. Yeah. Yes, that's why I'm asking this. I understand. That's why I don't think they were built for the what he said. No, I understand, but that's what he said. He said something different in his speech. And also for the paper on German commerce in World War I, Mr. Rashid. So I did a presentation 2 years ago at the LSA on Germans and Austro-Hungarian businessmen in Nigeria, mainly Lagos. And And I didn't understand how you were doing a reappraisal, because my view is like you were summarizing some key like headlines that I may come across. And also the book, one of the authors you mentioned who spent at least 1 year for his PhD to write about the Germans in Nigeria. And basically, for me, appraisal, it would be like you would be using some different sources, because most one of the authors you mentioned, one of the key things he did was to spend 1 year in Germany and to go through sources in German. So he spent his time to learn German to go through them. And I'm still working on this paper to upgrade it to integrate some German sources. So I stopped because of COVID, but actually you need to go deep into the German sources, and maybe new sources you could find actually written in English, based in England, and also even based in Nigeria. I found a few things as well in Nigeria many years ago. So when I was not even working on that, and that's why I thought thinking of working on that. But we can communicate if you want.
Thank you. Then also, let's leave up the matter for more information on that. Madam, thank you for giving that date. Well appreciated. Madam.
Good morning, everyone. My observation is to Mr. John.
1 hour.
Okay. You said something of, you made it sound so utopian when you said the Igbos, when they returned to Zaria, they were all giving their properties and, I would have loved to hear, a balance between those who did not receive, because I know that one of the major reasons why there's still a great strain in the relationship between the North, the East, and the South is not even the war, it's the after effect of the war. And when you pointed out that in the South, there was this properties were not returned, I agree totally. At least a high percentage of it were not returned to the Igbos. I would have also expected that even cite someone like the musician Onyeka Owenu, because her family lived in Port Harcourt and they suffered the devastating effect of that war. Their properties were never returned to them, and her mom was even beaten into a coma. We were there when she spoke with us and all that. So I would have expected a balanced view, because you're making it sound as if every Igbo who returned to Zaria got their properties, but I don't think that is the case. So it would be nice to just have both sides of the coin. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Let's start from Mr. John. Briefly respond to the questions thrown at you. Mr. John. Mr. John.
Yes, thank you very much for the contributions I've received. As I said earlier on, it is an ongoing research which I'm conducting. To the question I've taken note here, somebody asked that who controlled the property when the Igbos were away. In the course of my presentation, I said that those properties left behind became an issue. So the government at that time had to establish the Abandoned Property Committee that was to look into this property. So caretakers were appointed, and then these properties were given to them to manage, pending when the owners are back to Zaria. And this even explains why these properties were properly managed in Zaria and other parts of the northern cities. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah. Any other, and there are other questions related to
and then
to give a balanced view about the abandoned properties, the way they were treated on both sides of the divide.
The question. Hello.
Hello.
I mean, the questions I noted them, so I'm taking them one after the other.
Okay. Yeah, to other.
Okay. Yeah.
That's all.
Paper right now, I don't use personal pronouns, but maybe I will take note of that maybe in the course of my future presentations. And then the other question on Sabon Gari, yes, Now, Sabongari, literal translation means a new town, but it is on record, especially by the work done by Vukiwayo and Mahmoud Tukur, that the British colonialists in Zaria, they established this town during the colonial time. And when they established it, it was specifically dedicated for the southern migrants. Because in most northern cities, we have Sabongari. For example, in Zaria, in Kano, in Sokoto, we have Sabongari. Not just only Sabongari. The settlement pattern was divided into three. We had Sabongari, we had Tudunwada, and also we had the GRAs. And I told you the reason why this Sabongari was established, because they don't want the southern migrants to mingle with the host community who were resident within the walled city of Zaria. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then question. Balance, yes, argument. Okay, as I said, it is an so I'll ask more questions on that. But from the interviews I've carried out, so far so good. What I was made to understand was that the committee did that effective work. The only thing that they could not get were maybe those movable items that they left behind, maybe furnitures, those who left some movable items. But as far as you have the documents of your house, and even if you don't have documents, before you left, possibly you had friends who were in the neighborhood. You carry one of them who can stand for you to the committee, and then they will return your property back to you. So for most of the testimonies I got, showed that some people got their property, except for
Mr. John.
Yes.
Thank you. It's an ongoing work. Thank you so much for the presentation. We are limited by time.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. The German man.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So to your question, sir.
Please, within 1 minute.
Yeah, your question. I would want to.
I've just been reminded that you have just 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. Yes.
Yeah, from your last question, usage of pictures in the presentation. That's the last question. Actually, I would have been loved to do so, but if you are conversant with the archive in Nigeria, especially about I use the archive. I use the archives. I use them Enugu archives, and I use them Kaduna Calabar archives. So most of the newspapers of this early colonial period are no more. Where you can get all those things, they are no more. Then what I got were just written documents. So most of those things are documents. All of them, they practically can't find materials with the pictures. And then newspapers are also no more. Please, anybody can. You can find some things for the period.
Link up with that. I know there will be documents on German period, either in Germany or in Britain, even in France or Great Britain.
So let's think through the focus of this paper. Because one thing I struggle with, and it's your probably have understanding of listening to man, I struggle to establish what is the focus of the arguments.
Yes, I'm good. I'm going to respond to that. So actually, the focus of this paper, like I said at the beginning, is just to interrogate how German businesses were treated after their expulsion. That's my main interest, because I cited the work of previous scholars. So, and then after citing their works, I discovered that there is a broader question of how businesses were treated needs to be answered.
Yeah, I think
sir, because of time, because other people have to respond. Other people have to respond. please link up with him after this session for more discussion. Oh, yeah. The Gari Jebu man. Please, within 1 minute. Just why is that Gari so important? Yes. Why I appreciate looking for Jebu Gari. It's not across all questions. Yes.
Yeah. I like to say a big thank you to the madam that challenged the fact that I couldn't have mentioned the benefits. But I want to maybe go against that a little. That if you could have said that that benefit should have come after the after madam mentioned the processing. So, but the fact that I should remove that, I think is not. So the processing, the uniqueness of the Gari is that is in the processing. Okay, and it is the processing that brings the end results. As a matter of fact, in a time in history, a point in time in history whereby the Ijebu people were, migrating to Oyo to go and teach the indigenous of Oyo how to do this Gari. So because then Oyo Gari that made from Oyo is different from Ijebu in the fact that the dryness, so that's the uniqueness I'm mentioning, the dryness of Gari Ijebu, and this is born out of patience. Some friars, because they want to earn a huge amount of money as a result of the fact that it is the number of basin or the measurement tools you have, fried that will enable the amount of money you will receive. So they don't take their time to, fry for a long time so that Gari will dry very well. Because it is that dryness that will bring out the sourness of the Gari. And it is that sourness particularly that is, central to Ijebu Gari that distinguishes it between among other Gari producers. Sourness, the crispy taste. If you take Ijebu Gari, there is this bite that comes to your mouth. You feel like something is biting you. So, but for the Igbo Gari, because they had palm oil. Yeah.
When it was shaped.
Yes. So, if you examine the Igbo production of Gari, you realize that it's yellowish in color. So, and not oil. Yeah. There are some that they add oil to it instead of frying. So that oil now, it has been established that oil is one of the reasons that that diminish the sourness of their Gari. If you take their Gari and you take the Jebu Gari, you realize that there is this sourness in the Jebu Gari. Different.
Mohammed, are you online?
I think I'm the Mohammed, sir.
Mohammed.
No, the one writing on Lagos movement.
It's a continuous ritual.
Okay.
A pilgrimage ritual.
Yes. On behalf of the organizers, I want to thank everybody. It's been quite stimulating and fascinating session. One out. Indeed, I've learned some new things. I never heard about this man's names in the study of movement. An Egyptian plays so much role in the nationalist struggle. Then the German is one of the neglected areas of Nigerian history. And it's because of the fallout of the two world wars which Germany lost. There's very little attention paid to that part of our trade and commerce history in the colonial period, because they were regarded as enemy countries. Therefore, most of the things about them are somehow pushed to the background. But with this new insights, with new researches being conducted in that area, we will see what the Germans did before the World War I and what happened to their commerce and economic activities in Nigeria between the two world wars. So I want to thank everybody. The Gari man, thank you for showing the uniqueness of our Gari. I'm proud of you. Give me 5.